Like there was this great article that came out from Andy Ellis that basically said the volumpocalypse isn't your problem. And your, in this case, being IT professionals, people who spend a lot of their time working in, operations. He's like, this is an executive problem because they need to allocate resources, and this is a development problem because they have to write the fixes. Don't get wrapped around the axle thinking that you guys have to go out and save the world. I mean, even though that's operations job, right? Saving the world. So like whose problem is this? Who should be worrying about this? And should operations teams be staying up at night?
The way you phrase it, in some ways, he's right in that this is what the CISO or the CIO role is. You are, by taking that position, stepping up to be the head that's on the chopping block for stuff like this. You have to make a case to the business about why why your tech strategy needs to go a certain direction, why investments need to be allocated in certain ways. So, from an organizational structure, I would say he's right. The problem is that we all know that, crap rolls downhill and eventually it is operations problem.
But I think it also depends on what type of organization you are. If you're a software development organization and you're putting out software that, you're charging for your software to sell to somebody else, it's incumbent upon you to make it as vulnerability free as possible. And therefore it's a DevOps problem, right? It's a developer problem. They have to go and find and fix the bugs. On the other hand, if I'm a consumer of that same very software, I know that they can't fix every bug instantaneously. And it's incumbent upon me to understand which of these issues, which of these vulnerabilities affects my particular situation, and to put some compensating controls in place one way or the other to deal with it. One is I do nothing and accept the risk that comes with it, or I put in a firewall rule or some other compensating control, or I document it, or I understand it, right? That's an IT problem. And it's also a CISO problem for that organization receiving that software. CISO and the security team has to understand what the security implications are, but ultimately IT and IT ops is the ones with hands on the keyboard, changing patching the software, finding the maintenance windows, and or putting in the firewall rules as a security thing. So it's sort of a team sport, right? But it really depends on the type of organization. If you can't just wave your hands and say, hey, it's a CISO problem and I'm just going to ignore it until the world falls apart.
Jack, I want to live in the fantasy land that you live in. And I'll tell you why, is because I promise you that if the CIO does implement a fix for this, guess who's getting all the credit for it? Not the team. The CIO, the CISO, whoever did it is definitely going to get the credit for improving shareholder value and reducing risk and all the other stuff that is kind of their job. Meanwhile, operations is keeping things from catching on fire, which is, of course, their job, but they never get credit for it. And I feel like that's part of where we're at, is that a lot of the people that are above the knowledge workers, the foot soldiers on the front lines, they love to get rewarded or recognized for making hard decisions, but they don't actually like making those hard decisions. And like you said, sometimes, and we've seen this a lot recently with things like, some of these big CVSS scores that are coming out, like there's a real, there may not be mitigations, or the mitigation may be very difficult and the patch could be days or weeks away. And so that's why you get paid big bucks, folks, is to say, well, what if we restrict access to this service until then? One of my favorites is when you get a CVSS that's like, oh, well, the mitigation is don't expose management to the internet. And my first thought was, who the heck is managing this thing from the internet? And then my second thought is, okay, well, that's a pretty easy fix, but then it's not, because somewhere out there is a system that needs access to that dashboard, or a contract worker that they're not going to set up a VPN for, or something like that. And then the corner cases become the reality. Yes, if you look at the entire scale of everything that's going wrong, it should just be as easy as turning this thing off. It's never that easy. I wish it was, because in reality, everybody has something that doesn't fit the mold there.
The other thing I'll say is that in some ways, it's all of our problem. We, as people living in essentially a digital world, I'm just thinking about the Canvas attack, students were trying to take exams and upload essays and got shut down. They suffered the fallout of a string of executive decisions around investment in and building procedures around cybersecurity. So CISOs and CIOs can do all the risk management and make all the sign-offs and stuff. But if something goes wrong, the consumer is the one that also ends up paying, and we get no recourse, except maybe you get a free year of credit monitor.